Welcome, adventurers! What's going on, guys? My name is Cody. This is Taking 20, a channel about all things role-playing games, and today we're back with another call for aid as we're talking high-level wizard and high-level rogue goals and what we can do with them. So that's what we're talking about today. I hope you're ready. Let's get started. All right, so we got a question. This comes from Steffen, cool name. Hey Cody, I have a party in 5e D&D right now, and I have a question. What are some major goals for wizards and rogues in Dungeons & Dragons? For example, building a tower for a wizard or founding a thieves guild for a rogue, etc. Our wizard is a necromancer and rogue is an assassin. Thanks in advance, love your work. Well, I appreciate the compliment, and I think I've got some answers for you. Okay, Steffen, so I'm going to talk about this in a couple of different ways. The first way is I'm going to tell you about what I would recommend, or maybe some ideas for you, as if you were the dungeon master, which I'm going to assume that you are. But just because you use the word our, I'm also going to talk about what I would do or recommend as a player in this group if you're looking for some motivations from the actual player side and what your individual character might be interested in doing. Now, I understand if you're a dungeon master for a high-level group, and especially one that may have been running with the same group for a long time, that it can be difficult at times to continue to come up with fresh content for these characters because they already have a full list of accomplishments and epic adventures that they've been on. So I understand that. What I want to do is I want to ask you a few questions, okay? I'm going to ask you a few questions to get you kind of thinking in a inquisitive mode, and maybe that will inspire you to jump in with some new content, some new adventures, and some new hooks for your game. Now, let's talk about the wizard, specifically a necromancer. Now, you mentioned building a wizard's tower, which would be a little weird, I think, for a necromancer to kind of be into. That'd be an interesting tower. Now, wizards, I think, are a little unique in Dungeons & Dragons 5th edition, where at a certain point, they start to feel kind of invincible, if you will. It's really, really difficult to make them feel challenged. A lot of them have a lot of tools at their disposal that if they can't handle a problem, they could probably run away from a big problem. So that's my way of thinking when I'm thinking about how can I challenge this wizard, is that the traditional things or the things below his power level, even if you start adding a bunch of them, he's probably going to be able to just teleport a dimension door or et cetera, just get away. Eventually, he can just cast wish and do many, many things. So I like to think of things, what is above him? What is above a godlike status wizard? Well, probably a deity. That is the logical next step in progression for challenging a wizard at a high level. Deities as adversaries has always been really interesting to me because I find it that on the mundane levels, the low levels, it's really hard to make those storylines plausible. But at the higher levels, I actually find that they make a lot of sense because deities in general, at least the stories that I've read and the games that I've run, are often quite prideful. So if you have a deity that has been comfortably at this level and they meddle in lives whenever they feel like, and suddenly one of their little playthings is kind of getting a little too big for his britches, if you will, oftentimes it can lead to panic or wanting to use that individual. So my question to you is there a way, is there a deity in your game that it might make sense to start involving themselves in your necromancer's life? You could always go the route of an evil deity or a neutral deity that might be interested in maintaining its power and is self-interested. Or you might find a good aligned deity that wants to destroy this horrible necromancer that has risen to the top of evil things in the world, and they just aren't going to have this high-level being, this very powerful being, continue to raise undead and cast necrotic magics. And if you don't want to go the route of a deity because maybe that doesn't fit your campaign, or maybe you just got out of a deity campaign, you can always go the route of an up-and-coming challenger. So take the reversal of kind of what I was saying, where you have the deities here and your necromancer is growing closer to his power level, and maybe that causes some issues, some drama, some conflict there. Instead, have your necromancer who is at this level, and consider having another rival or another wizard growing closer to his power level. Or maybe there's even a wizard right here that wants to maintain their power. So when you start having these really big, powerful beings in the world, a lot of times it can naturally create either an ally or an enemy. That's where I would look specifically to continue to draw this player into the plot, into your hooks, and go off on other adventures. Okay, so let's talk about the assassin. Now, I'm not going to make an assumption necessarily that your group is an evil party, though you do have an assassin and a necromancer. But my question to you would be, what does your assassin stand for? When you are looking to motivate a character, you should probably ask yourself, what do they stand for, right? What is their pillars? What are their beliefs? What are the things that this is them? These are their defining characteristics for how they think and what they believe in. Once you understand your rogue's pillars of beliefs, what he stands for, ask yourself if he is leaving a legacy, because most people want an impact on the world, right? They want something that says, these are the things that I have done, these are my accomplishments. And I would suggest, instead of just forming a Thieves Guild, which could be a little bit of a bland hook or inspiration or goal, see if there's maybe something that could be undoing this individual's legacy. What if there is something that is going behind this rogue or this assassin and undoing all of the things that he has accomplished, that are undoing all of his pillars of beliefs that are standing for things on the opposite end of the spectrum that he is? A great example of this is Drizzt and Artemis and Treri. So these are rivals, much like what we talked about with our wizard, but it's not just that they are rivals and that they are competing with each other, because they're not competing with each other. Drizzt isn't worried about being better than Artemis and Treri, although Artemis is. The real thing that drives a wedge in between these guys and makes them constantly conflict with each other is that they stand on opposite ends of the spectrum in their beliefs. They're very, very, very similar, but they just cannot see eye to eye. And that is what creates all of this conflict. So consider having a force in your world that is standing on the opposite end of the spectrum from this player that might be undoing all of their legacy. So if you have an assassin that has been going around assassinating people and killing people and taking contracts on them, then maybe you have a force in your world that is following behind him and they didn't realize it, and they're resurrecting all of those people, bringing them back to life, and they're using those people to gather more information about where your rogue and your assassin is traveling to next, and what if they're building a network against them. That would be a good surprise, and I think a good motivator for a player who thinks that they have accomplished so much, to find that a lot of the things that they have accomplished are in fact being undone. That's a good way to hook them back into the story and make them want to go back. Now, I will advise a little bit of caution here to not be so confrontational with it as a dungeon master or game master when you present this, right? You don't want your player feeling cheated out of all the things that he's done. You don't want to come across as the, oh yeah, well, you think you're so smart, you think you did all these things, and everything you accomplish is undone, right? Don't be too confrontational as a dungeon master when it comes to that stuff. Feed this to your player through a contact, through an NPC. Make them think that they have won this information. Make them think that they discovered that all the things they have done have been undone, or all the things that, or all the places they've gone that somebody is hunting them and tracking them. So give them that information kind of from an NPC very subtly. Make them think they won that information, that they deserved that information, that they earned it. That would be my advice. So for player advice, I'm going to go in a little bit of a different route, okay? I'm going to go much more generic, because I don't think that motivators for you as a player, or a player in a group, some of your friends that you're playing with, are necessarily tied into your class or your race. It's not how you fight in combat that should be motivating your character. Motivations are going to be much more personal and are tied much more into the personality of that character than they are how skilled they are at unlocking doors or casting cantrips. So for player motivators, let me ask you this. Does your character maybe want to be famous or infamous? Does your rogue want to be known across the land as the one thief that was able to sneak into the king's castle and take his most prized possession of a golden rose given to him by a deity granting him power? Does he want to be infamous for being known as the most lethal assassin that no matter what always gets the job done, no matter the target? Or perhaps your wizard is interested in discovering a lost magic, finally solving the answer to what happened to the city of Atlantis. Or perhaps you are interested in collecting the lost artifacts of Fagrin and chasing them from across the land. So there you go. There are a few ideas, examples of what I might do if I was either a dungeon master in this game or if I was a player in this game. Hopefully that will give you guys some inspiration for your campaign so that you can continue on. And what do you guys think? Give us some clever ideas, okay? Give us some ideas for what a high-level wizard and a high-level rogue might do, specifically a necromancer and an assassin. I'm looking forward to reading your comments. I love plot hooks, right? I will take some plot hooks. And if you want to submit your own question to Call for Aid, links are in the description down below for like Facebook, Twitter, email. I guess I'd probably prefer email. That'd be the easiest. Maybe put like Call for Aid or question for the channel at the beginning so I can filter those out and kind of go through them that way. But yeah, don't forget that if you have a question you want to submit, that's how you do it in the description down below. If this is your first time here and you love role-playing games as much as I do, I would love to have you subscribe. Every week I'll be putting out a new video on DM tips, player tips, tutorials, and more. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, just hit that subscribe button down below and come join us. Thank you guys so much for watching. My name is Cody, and may your games be filled with awesome memories and even better friends. I will catch you guys next time.